The first note wasn't supposed to mean anything. At least, that's what I told myself when I found it stuck beneath my laptop, folded neatly, as if it belonged there more than I did. It read in rushed, crooked handwriting, "Don't forget to eat lunch today. You work too hard." I laughed when I saw it, too loud for the quiet of the office. Maybe it was stupid, maybe it was sweet, or maybe it was just another prank from one of my coworkers trying to mess with me. But for some reason, I kept that little scrap of paper. I shoved it into my drawer instead of throwing it away. And that's where everything started. It was fall in New York City, the kind of season where the air turned crisp enough to make you want to bury your face in a scarf but still warm enough that the sun painted everything gold. I had been working at the publishing firm for 3 years, buried under manuscripts and deadlines, living on caffeine and sarcasm. Then came him, Ryan, the kind of guy who didn't need to try to make a room notice him. He walked in with that easy smile, the sort of half-smirk that made you wonder if he was always thinking of something clever he'd never tell you. He had this messy black hair that never looked unintentional and a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. Everyone liked him right away. He was the guy who remembered your coffee order, who laughed at the boss's terrible jokes, who made Monday mornings feel a little less like hell. I told myself I hated him. Maybe hate is the wrong word. But there was something about the way he leaned on my desk when he had no reason to. The way he tilted his head when I spoke like he was actually listening. And then there were the notes. Always small. Always stupidly sweet. Left when I wasn't looking. Drink water. Your lips are dry. That chapter you edited. Genius. Stop doubting yourself. The world would implode if you actually smiled before 9 a.m. I wanted to be annoyed. I wanted to roll my eyes, crumple them up, toss them in the trash. But instead, I kept every single one, hidden in the back of my drawer like some pathetic teenager collecting love notes. Except they weren't love notes. Right? They couldn't be. The first time we really touched wasn't even supposed to happen. It was late. The office was dark except for the glow of the city bleeding in through the windows. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. But of course, I was still chained to my desk, editing until my eyes blurred. I reached for a stack of papers at the same time Ryan did, and our hands collided. "Sorry," I muttered, jerking back like he'd burned me. But he didn't move away. His fingers brushed mine again. Slower this time. Deliberate. He looked at me with that infuriating smirk, like he knew every secret I was trying to bury. "You ever wonder," he said softly, "why I leave those notes?" I swallowed. My throat felt dry, but not in the way water could fix. "I figured you were bored," I said, forcing a laugh. He leaned closer. So close I could smell the faint trace of his cologne, something warm, woodsy, a little addictive. "Or maybe," he whispered, "I just like watching you smile when you think no one's looking." And just like that, the floor tilted beneath me. But this story isn't a fairy tale. Not yet. Because the thing about falling for a man like Ryan is that you don't just fall. You crash. You burn. You tear yourself open on the way down. I didn't want to admit what was happening. Didn't want to face the way my pulse stuttered whenever he was near. Not here. Not in this office where reputation mattered. Where whispers traveled faster than deadlines. So I fought it. I teased him when he got too close. I brushed off his compliments like they meant nothing. I pretended the notes didn't live rent-free in my chest. But every time I tried to put distance between us, he found a way to close it. "Stop working so late. Man, you're going to burn out. Come out with me. Just for one drink. One drink won't kill you. You don't have to be alone all the time, you know." And maybe that was the thing that scared me most. Because being alone was safe. Being alone meant no one could break me. But with Ryan, I wasn't alone anymore. One night, after too many glasses of whiskey and not enough common sense, I found myself standing outside his apartment. I don't even remember how it happened. We'd gone out with a group from work. The kind of outing that was supposed to be harmless. Just co-workers blowing off steam. But the others drifted away, one by one, until it was just us. And suddenly the whole city felt too big and too small at the same time. He offered me a ride home, but instead, we ended up at his place. The living room smelled like cedar and coffee, the kind of warm, lived-in scent that made you want to stay. He dropped his keys on the counter, looked at me, and said, "So, do you want the couch? Or?" The silence stretched, thick and dangerous. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Or?" I asked, my voice embarrassingly shaky. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, like he was giving me time to run. But I didn't move. Couldn't. "Or," he said, "you could stay here." And then his lips were on mine. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't the kind of kiss you see in movies. All soft focus and perfect timing. It was messy, desperate, a collision of everything we'd been holding back. His hands tangled in my hair, mine fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer like I'd been starving and he was the only thing that could feed me. For a moment, the world narrowed to just this: his breath against my skin, the heat of his body pressed against mine, the way he whispered my name like a prayer. But then the fear crashed in. Because wanting him was one thing. Having him, that was dangerous. That was real. I broke away, panting, my chest heaving like I'd just run a marathon. "This is a mistake," I said, the words tearing out of me like broken glass. Ryan froze, his expression flickering between hurt and something else, something softer, almost pleading. "Is it?" he asked quietly. I couldn't answer. So I did what I always do. I ran. That was the night I realized the truth. The notes weren't just notes. The looks weren't just looks. And my heart, it wasn't safe anymore. But the worst part wasn't that he wanted me. It was that I wanted him back. The morning after I kissed Ryan and then ran away from him like some coward, I couldn't look him in the eye. I walked into the office pretending everything was normal, clutching my coffee like it was a lifeline. But the second I stepped inside, I felt it. The weight of his gaze. The air between us thick with everything unsaid. He didn't say a word. Not a good morning. Not a sarcastic comment about how tired I looked. Nothing. And somehow, that silence hurt more than anything. I sat at my desk, trying to drown myself in work. But it was useless. Every time I looked up, I caught him across the room, tapping his pen against his notepad, his jaw tight, like he was holding himself together by threads. By lunch, I cracked. "Ryan," I called softly when I passed his desk. He looked up, eyes unreadable. "Can we talk?" For a second, I thought he'd say no. But then he pushed back his chair and stood. "Conference room," he said, his voice low. The conference room was empty. Thank God. I closed the door, my palms sweating, my heart racing. "I'm sorry," I blurted out before he could say anything. "About last night. I shouldn't have kissed me." He interrupted, one eyebrow raised. Heat rushed to my face. "Yeah." His laugh was soft, humorless, funny, because I haven't been able to think about anything else since it happened. I swallowed hard, unable to meet his eyes. It was a mistake. Ryan stepped closer. Not too close, but close enough that I felt the pull. "Don't do that," he said quietly, Do what? Pretend you don't want this. Pretend you don't want me. I forced a laugh, brittle and sharp. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think I do. His eyes burned into mine, daring me to deny it. And God, I wanted to. I wanted to slam the walls back up, retreat into the safety of denial. But instead, the words slipped out before I could stop them. I'm scared, Ryan. The silence stretched. His expression softened. And for the first time, he didn't look cocky or smug. He just looked human, vulnerable. Me too, he admitted. That was the moment something shifted between us. We didn't dive headfirst into whatever this was. We didn't rush. Instead, we hovered in that dangerous in-between space more than friends. Not quite lovers. 1,000 stolen glances, almost touches, conversations that carried double meanings. The notes didn't stop. If anything, they grew bolder. Your laugh is my favorite part of the day. Do you even realize how amazing you are? You make staying late at work worth it. I wrote nothing back, but I kept every single one. The first time I went to his apartment again, it wasn't planned. We'd stayed late at the office, working on a deadline. The others had gone home hours ago. But of course, we were still there, him scribbling on sticky notes, me editing until my eyes burned. When the clock hit midnight, he leaned back in his chair and groaned. Screw this. We're not getting any more work done tonight. You're probably right, I admitted, rubbing my temples. He stood, grabbing his coat. Come on. You're not going home alone at this hour. Crash at my place. I should have said no. I should have made up some excuse. But instead, I found myself following him out into the cool night air, my chest tight with something that felt suspiciously like hope. His apartment looked different this time. Or maybe I was the one who'd changed. The couch where I'd almost kissed him weeks ago suddenly felt charged with possibility. The kitchen counter where he tossed his keys looked like it belonged in some version of our life together that I wasn't brave enough to imagine. We ordered takeout, sat on the floor, drank cheap beer, and laughed about nothing. It was easy, almost too easy, and that scared me more than anything. At some point, I leaned back against the couch, exhaustion pulling me under. My eyes drifted closed, and the next thing I knew, there was a blanket being draped over me. I opened my eyes just in time to see him crouched beside me, his expression so soft it made my chest ache. Go to sleep, he whispered. I'll be right here. And for the first time in years, I let myself believe him. Of course, life doesn't let happiness linger without a fight. The rumors started small. A comment in the break room, a knowing look from a coworker. Nothing concrete, just whispers floating through the air like smoke. Those two sure stay late together a lot. Have you noticed how he looks at him? Bet there's something going on. In any other office, maybe it wouldn't have mattered. But here, in a company where image was everything, where politics mattered more than talent, it was dangerous. One afternoon, my boss pulled me aside. Look, he said, lowering his voice. I don't care what you do in your personal life. But people are talking. Don't let it interfere with the work. I nodded stiffly, my stomach twisting. That night, I told Ryan we had to be more careful. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Stormy. Careful. You mean hiding? Yes, I admitted. If people find out, then what? He shot back. What's the worst that happens? They gossip. Screw them. You don't get it. I snapped. I've worked too hard to lose everything over this. And what about me? His voice cracked. Am I supposed to be your dirty little secret forever? The words hung heavy between us. I didn't answer. And in my silence, I think I broke something in him. The days that followed were cold. He still left notes, but they were different now. Shorter. Safer. Don't forget your umbrella. Meeting at 2 p.m. Good luck with the presentation. No warmth. No humor. No heart. It felt like he was building walls of his own. And I hated it. But what could I do? I was the one who'd pushed him away. Every time I thought about telling him the truth that I wanted him, that I was terrified, that I couldn't stop thinking about the way his lips felt on mine, I froze. Because wanting him meant risking everything. And I wasn't sure I was brave enough. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday. We'd been working on a huge campaign, the kind that could make or break our careers. Stress was high, tempers higher. I snapped at him over something stupid, a typo, I think, and he snapped back. God, you're impossible, he muttered, shoving his chair back. At least I'm not reckless. I shot back. He froze, his eyes narrowing. Is that what you think this is? That I'm reckless? For wanting you? I swallowed, guilt burning my throat. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. His voice was sharp, cutting. You think I'm reckless for wanting you, but you're a coward for pretending you don't want me back. The room went silent. My chest ached, my hands shaking at my sides. And then he walked out, leaving me standing there with nothing but my own fear. That night, I sat at my desk long after everyone else had gone. The rain beat against the windows. The city blurred beyond the glass. My drawer was filled with his notes. Hundreds of little pieces of him that I'd hoarded like a fool. One by one, I pulled them out, spread them across the desk. Every word, every scribble, every reminder that he saw me in ways no one else ever had. And for the first time, I realized it wasn't enough to keep them. I had to give something back. So I picked up a pen. And I started to write. The first letter wasn't beautiful. It wasn't polished. Not the way I polish manuscripts at work. It was messy. Ink smudged where my hand trembled. Sentences scratched out because I hated how raw they sounded. But it was honest. Ryan, you think I don't notice what you've done for me? You think I just laugh off your notes, shove them into my drawer, and forget them? But the truth is, I keep every single one. And when the days feel heavy, when I can't breathe under the weight of everything, I take them out and read them, over and over, until I remember how to breathe again. I'm scared. Not of you. Never of you. I'm scared of wanting something I might lose. I'm scared of being seen. But I need you to know when you touched my hand, when you kissed me, when you looked at me like I was worth it, I wanted it too. I still do. I don't know how to say this out loud. So I'm writing it here, hoping you'll forgive the cowardice. I didn't sign my name, but he would know. He'd always known. I slid it into his desk drawer the next morning before anyone else arrived. My hands shook as I did it, terrified someone else would find it, terrified of what he'd think, terrified of what this meant. Then I waited. The hours dragged. He didn't come into the office until late, and when he did, I couldn't look at him. My pulse hammered as he sat down, opened his drawer, froze. I kept my eyes glued to my screen, pretending to type while my whole body strained toward him. Silence. Then the faintest sound of paper unfolding. Pause. And then nothing. No reaction. No glance. No note slid onto my desk in return. By the end of the day, I convinced myself I'd made a mistake. But when I packed up to leave, There it was. A sticky note stuck to my monitor. Just 4 words. Come over tonight. His apartment felt different that night. He was already waiting when I arrived, leaning against the kitchen counter, the letter in his hand. His eyes searched mine, dark and unreadable. You wrote this, he said, his voice low. Yes, I admitted, throat tight. Why now? I swallowed, forcing myself to meet his gaze. Because I couldn't keep pretending. For a moment, he just looked at me, like he was trying to read between the lines of my face. Then he stepped closer, holding up the letter. These words, he whispered, they're better than every note I ever left you. My chest ached. That's not true. It is, he said, because they're real. His hand brushed mine, soft, tentative. So what happens now? I didn't answer with words. I kissed him. This time, I didn't run. We didn't become a couple overnight. If anything, things grew more complicated. The letters continued. Every day. One from me. One from him. Mine were longer, spilling out all the things I couldn't say out loud. His were shorter, sharper, but no less devastating. You make me want to be braver. When you laugh, I feel it in my chest. Tell me how to love you without losing you. We never talked about them directly. It was our secret language, tucked in drawers, slipped into bags, hidden under coffee mugs. A quiet rebellion against the silence that still caged us during the day. And slowly, the world outside faded when we were together. But secrets have a way of spilling. One evening, after another late night at the office, I left before Ryan. My mind was scattered, my thoughts tangled in deadlines and the memory of his hand on my back when no one was looking. I didn't notice until I was already on the subway that I'd left my folder behind. By the time I rushed back, the office was dark except for one light. And one voice. Interesting letter you've got here. I froze. It was Mark, one of the senior editors. Smug, sharp-tongued, the kind of man who thrived on gossip. He was standing by Ryan's desk, holding one of my letters between 2 fingers like it was evidence in a trial. Ryan was on his feet, his jaw tight, his eyes blazing. Put it down. Mark smirked. Didn't know you two were. Put it down. Ryan repeated, his voice like steel. For a moment, I thought Mark might push it, drag the moment out, savor the power he had. But something in Ryan's expression must have warned him off, because he set the letter back on the desk. Relax, Mark said, raising his hands. I don't care what you do. Just thought it was entertaining. Then he walked out, leaving silence in his wake. I stepped forward, my legs shaking. Ryan, but he cut me off. His hand trembling as he picked up the letter. We can't keep doing this here. Not like this. The truth in his voice gutted me. For days after, paranoia wrapped around me like a second skin. Every whisper in the hall, every sideways glance felt loaded, dangerous. But Ryan was steady. One night, when I was unraveling, he pulled me close and pressed his forehead to mine. Let them talk, he murmured. I'm not ashamed of you. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the fear never fully left. The turning point came not from the office, but from him. He showed up at my apartment one night with a box in his hands. What's this? I asked. He grinned, boyish and nervous. Our letters. All of them. Yours and mine. I've been keeping every single one. My breath caught. Even the stupid ones. Especially the stupid ones. He set the box on my table, lifted the lid, and there they were, hundreds of folded papers, sticky notes, scraps of ink-stained confessions. A history of us, written in fragments. You once told me you were scared of wanting something you might lose. He said softly. Well, this is proof you can't lose it. Because I'll never let you. I blinked back tears, my chest swelling with something fierce and fragile all at once. And in that moment, I knew. It wasn't about being safe. It wasn't about silence. It was about choosing him. The first time I told him I loved him, it wasn't planned. We were lying on his couch, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy circles on my arm. The city hummed outside, the world moving too fast. But inside his apartment everything was still. I love you, I whispered, the words slipping out before I could stop them. His hand stilled. For a terrifying second. He didn't move, didn't breathe. Then he kissed the top of my head and whispered back. Took you long enough. And just like that, the fear loosened its grip. But of course, love doesn't erase reality. The campaign we'd been working on went live. And with it came attention, too much attention. Our names were suddenly in meetings. Our work praised. Our futures bright. And with the spotlight came scrutiny. We had a choice. Keep hiding. Or step into the light together. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure which terrified me more. The choice didn't come gently. It never does. It came crashing down on a Tuesday morning, during a staff meeting that should have been routine. The room was packed, fluorescent lights humming, coffee cups clattering against the table. I was half listening to the boss drone on about quarterly numbers when I noticed the way the air shifted. Whispers. Side glances. A suppressed laugh. Then Mark, the same smug bastard who'd once found one of my letters, cleared his throat and said, too casually, so, are we going to address the fact that our two-star editors seem to spend more time writing each other than the actual authors? The room went still. My stomach dropped. Heat crawled up my neck. My palms went slick against the notepad in front of me. Ryan's jaw tightened. He didn't look at me, didn't even blink. He just leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, exuding a calm I knew was a mask. The boss frowned. Mark. What? Mark said innocently, though the smirk on his face gave him away. Everyone's talking about it. Letters on desks. Late nights. Come on. It's obvious. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me whole. The boss's gaze flicked to me, then to Ryan. Is there something either of you wants to say? Silence. My pulse thundered in my ears. Say something. I begged myself. Deny it. Laugh it off. Save yourself. But before I could, Ryan spoke. Yes, he said simply. The room erupted. The meeting ended in chaos, half the staff whispering. The boss muttering about professionalism. Mark smirking like he'd just won some private battle. I bolted as soon as I could, fleeing to the stairwell, my chest heaving, my thoughts spinning so fast I thought I'd choke. A moment later, the door creaked open. Ryan stepped inside, his expression unreadable. Why did you do that? I demanded, my voice hoarse. Because I'm done hiding, he said. My throat closed. Ryan, this could ruin us. He stepped closer, his eyes burning. Or it could save us. You think living in the shadows is safer, but all it's done is kill us slowly. I'm not ashamed of you, and I won't let anyone make me feel like I should be. Tears stung my eyes. You don't get it. No. He cut in. You don't get it. I'd rather lose this job than lose you. The words shattered me. Because I realized then, with brutal clarity, That while I'd been busy trying to protect my career, he'd been protecting us. Protecting me. And I'd been too much of a coward to see it. We didn't talk much for the rest of the day. Too many eyes. Too many whispers. By the time evening fell, I was raw, shaking, torn between terror and relief. I went home, sat on the floor of my apartment with our box of letters spilled out around me like debris after a storm. One note caught my eye, one I'd read 100 times before but never really believed. You don't have to be alone all the time, you know. My chest cracked open, because he'd been right from the start. The next morning, I walked into the office early. The place was quiet, only a few desks lit by the gray dawn. I went straight to Ryan's desk, pulled out a sheet of paper, and wrote, "Ryan, I'm tired of being afraid. Tired of choosing silence over you. You were brave when I wasn't. You carried this when I dropped it. I don't know how this ends, not with the office, not with the world, maybe not even with us. But I know this, I love you. And if I lose everything else, at least I'll have told the truth." I folded it, set it on his keyboard, and walked away before I could second-guess myself. That day was hell. The whispers hadn't stopped. Mark kept smirking like a vulture circling roadkill. The boss called me into his office, danced around words like inappropriate conduct and company image. But when I came back to my desk, the note was gone, and waiting on my chair was a letter in Ryan's messy scrawl. "I love you too. Always." My chest felt like it might split open. For a few weeks, things existed in a fragile balance. Yes, people whispered. Yes, Mark took every opportunity to make snide comments. But Ryan and I, we were steady, stronger, even. No more hiding. No more stolen glances with our backs to the world. We didn't flaunt it, but we didn't deny it either. Lunches together. Coffee breaks where his hand brushed mine openly. Notes left on desks that weren't disguised as jokes anymore. For the first time, felt real. But fragile things always break. The storm came in the form of an email. A client had seen us together out at lunch, laughing, his hand briefly on my back. Innocent, by any sane measure. But the client didn't see it that way. They complained. To the boss. To the board. By the next morning, we were both called into a meeting. "We value your work," the boss said, his tone clipped. "But this situation has become a distraction. You'll have to decide what matters more, your relationship, or your positions here." The words hit like a fist to the gut. Ryan didn't even flinch. "Our relationship," he said immediately. I froze. "Ryan," I whispered. He turned to me. I steady. "Say it." But I couldn't. My throat locked, my fear louder than my love. The boss sighed. "Then it's settled. Ryan, we'll process your resignation." My heart shattered. He left the office that day without a word to me. I sat at my desk, staring at the pile of notes we'd once exchanged, now feeling like remnants of a dream. Mark passed by, smirking. Guess the romance wasn't worth the fallout. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My chest was too full of regret, of words unsaid, of the image of Ryan walking out the door with his head held high while I stayed behind, shackled by fear. That night, my apartment was suffocating. The letters felt heavier than ever. Every word we'd written screamed at me. Coward, coward, coward. Picked up a pen. And for the first time, I didn't write him a letter to hide in a drawer. I wrote him a letter I intended to deliver. "Ryan, I was wrong. About everything. About hiding. About fear. About us. You asked me to choose. And I froze. But that wasn't my truth. My truth is you. It's always been you. If I lose everything else, fine. But I can't lose you. Not again. Not because I was too afraid to stand beside you when you needed me most. I love you. Come back to me. I folded it, slipped it into an envelope, and left my apartment before I could change my mind. The rain had started by the time I reached his building. Sheets of it, soaking me through, blurring the city lights into streaks of color. I didn't care. I banged on his door, clutching the letter like a lifeline. When he opened it, his eyes widened. He looked wreck-tired, angry, hurt. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice flat. I shoved the letter into his chest, my hands shaking. "Read it." He hesitated. Then, slowly, he unfolded it. His eyes scanned the words, his jaw tightening, his throat working. Finally, he looked up. "You mean this?" I stepped closer, my voice breaking. Every word. For a long moment, we just stood there, the rain pounding outside, my heart in my throat. Then he dropped the letter, cupped my face in his hands, and kissed me like he'd been drowning and I was air. And this time, I didn't let go. That night, we didn't sleep. Not in the way people mean when they say that. We lay tangled together, whispering truths in the dark, promising things we couldn't guarantee but needing to say them anyway. "I don't care about the job," he murmured against my skin. "I care about you." "I care about both," I admitted. "But I'll never choose the job over you again." "Good," he whispered, "because I'm not leaving this time." And for the first time in weeks, I believed him. The morning after we found our way back to each other, the city looked different. Maybe it was the same as it always had been: gray sidewalks, impatient traffic, the smell of burnt coffee drifting from corner carts, but through the haze of exhaustion and afterglow, felt like the world had softened. Ryan brewed coffee while I sat at his kitchen counter, hair a mess, wearing one of his shirts. It was too big on me, the sleeves hanging past my wrists. But he looked at me like I just solved every mystery he'd been chasing. "You're staring," I teased. "Can you blame me?" He shot back with a grin. And just like that, the heaviness of the past few weeks cracked open into something lighter. But reality has sharp edges, and I knew we couldn't stay in this bubble forever. "You should go back," I said quietly. Ryan set his mug down. "To what? They don't want me there." "They do," I insisted. "You're brilliant, and they know it. They're just scared. Just like I was." His eyes softened. "I don't want a job that asks me to hide." I reached across the counter, covering his hand with mine. "Then don't hide. Not anymore. If we go back together. No more secrets." He studied me, searching for the cracks in my resolve. And when he didn't find any, he smiled. "That's the bravest thing you've ever said to me," he murmured. Walking into the office hand in hand felt like stepping onto a battlefield. The whispers started the second we crossed the threshold. Mark's eyes nearly bugged out of his head, his smirk faltering for once. The boss looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. But I didn't let go of Ryan's hand. Not this time. We walked straight to the boss's office, closed the door behind us, and sat down side by side. "This is who we are," I said firmly. "We're together. If that's a problem, then we'll leave. But you should know you'll be losing two of your best editors." The silence stretched. My heart pounded so loud I thought it might drown out the ticking clock on the wall. Finally, the boss sighed. "You both know this will cause talk." "Then let them talk," Ryan said, steady as stone. A beat passed, then another, and finally, the boss nodded. Fine. As long as it doesn't interfere with the work. I don't care who you go home with. Relief crashed through me so hard I almost laughed. Ryan squeezed my hand under the desk. A silent "we did it." The weeks that followed were strange, but beautiful in their own way. Yes, the whispers continued. Some people avoided us. Some made jokes too loud to be anything but cruel. But others surprised me. A quiet word of support in the break room. A knowing smile from a coworker who'd clearly pieced things together long before. And through it all, Ryan was steady. We stopped writing letters at the office. Not because we didn't need them anymore, but because our honesty had outgrown scraps of paper. Now, we spoke the words out loud. But still, every now and then, he'd slide a note onto my desk. "You're the best part of my day. Stop pretending you don't like when I steal your pens. I love you. Always." And I'd write back, grinning as I left it in his drawer. The biggest test came months later, when we were asked to present our campaign at a national conference. It was a huge opportunity-defining. And for the first time, we weren't just representing ourselves, but us. The night before the presentation, I sat in our hotel room, nerves coiling in my stomach. Ryan paced, running through his notes, his tie hanging loose around his neck. "You'll do fine," I told him. He looked at me, eyes sharp but tired. "What if they judge us? Not the work." I swallowed, because that fear still lived in me too. But I pushed it aside, walked over, and straightened his tie. "Then we give them no choice," I said softly. "We show them we're the best. Together." His hands stilled on mine. "You really believe that now?" I smiled, heart full. "I do." The next day, we stood side by side on stage, the spotlight blinding, the room packed with strangers. My pulse roared in my ears. But then Ryan spoke, smooth and confident, weaving our story into the presentation. I followed, my voice steady, my words sharper than they'd ever been. And when it was over, the applause was real, loud, genuine. For once, no one looked at us like we didn't belong. They looked at us like we'd earned it. Because we had. That night, back in the hotel room, I collapsed onto the bed, adrenaline still buzzing. Ryan joined me, flopping down with a groan. "We did it," he murmured, half asleep already. I rolled onto my side, watching him, the man who'd written me 100 notes, who'd waited for me to find my courage, who'd loved me even when I couldn't love myself properly. "I love you," I whispered. His eyes flickered open, a lazy grin spreading across his face. "I know. And you're never writing another love letter without me seeing it first." I laughed, shoving his shoulder. "Bossy." "Honest," he corrected, pulling me close. And as I drifted off in his arms, I realized the truth. The letters had started it all. But it wasn't paper and ink that kept us together. It was the choice we made, every single day, to stay. Months later, I found another note on my desk. Not a sticky note. Not a scrap. An envelope, neatly folded, my name written across it. I opened it, expecting some inside joke, some sweet reminder. But inside was something else. "Will you marry me?" No ring. No grand gesture. Just a question written in the same messy scrawl that had changed my life. I laughed, tears burning my eyes. And when I looked up, Ryan was leaning against the doorway, grinning like he already knew the answer. "Yes," I said, loud and certain, because for once, there was nothing left to fear. The box of letters still sits in our apartment. Every note, every confession, every word we ever wrote to each other. A history of us, fragile but unbreakable. Sometimes, when the world feels heavy, we pull them out. We read them, laugh at the early ones, cry at the hard ones, hold each other through the memories. And every time, I remember the truth. He always left sweet notes on my desk. And now, every day, I write him love letters. Not on paper, but in the way I stay. The proposal wasn't fireworks or champagne. Not some grand public spectacle like the movies. It was quiet, honest. Just a note slipped into my hand when I wasn't expecting it. And somehow, that made it perfect. We didn't announce it right away. For a while, it was just ours. We whispered it across pillows, wore the secret like a warm coat, tested the way fiancé tasted on our tongues. Felt unreal, like maybe the universe had made a mistake and given us more than we deserved. But slowly, we let the world in. My mother cried when I told her. Not tears of sadness, but of something deeper, relief, maybe, or pride. She pulled me into her arms and whispered, "You finally let yourself be loved." Ryan's family was louder, wrapping me in hugs, already teasing me like I'd always been one of them. The office reacted the way I expected. Some warm congratulations, some awkward silence, and Mark muttering something about "didn't see that coming." But even he couldn't dampen the glow that followed us like sunlight. Planning the wedding was chaos, but the good kind. Ryan wanted something big, a celebration with everyone we loved. I wanted something small, quiet, intimate. We compromised an outdoor ceremony in a park, surrounded by close friends, family, and a handful of co-workers who'd earned their way into our trust. We wrote our own vows. Naturally, mine came out polished, edited and re-edited until every word carried weight. Ryan's, though his were messy, rambling, half laughing, half choking up. And yet they made everyone cry, including me. "I've been leaving you notes for years," he said, voice breaking as he looked at me. "But today, I'm writing the only one that matters. Forever." I lost it completely. When we kissed, it wasn't perfect. The timing was off, the angle awkward, but none of that mattered. What mattered was the way his hand trembled against mine, the way the world blurred around us, the way my heart finally stopped running. Married life wasn't a fairy tale. It was dishes piled in the sink, arguments about groceries, late nights at work, mornings when we barely grunted hello before rushing out the door. But it was also Sunday mornings tangled in sheets, his head on my chest as we read books in silence. It was sticky notes on the bathroom mirror, tucked into my lunch, slipped between manuscript pages. "Don't forget you're mine. Pick up milk." And also, "I love you." Still the best part of my day. I wrote back too. Sometimes with letters, sometimes with little gestures, packing his favorite snack, ironing his shirt before a big meeting, leaving my own clumsy notes on his desk. We never stopped writing, because words had always been our way of surviving. And now, they were our way of living. Years passed. The office changed. People came and went. Mark eventually transferred to another branch, leaving behind nothing but a faint, bitter aftertaste. The boss retired, and Ryan and we became fixtures. Not because we were perfect, but because we endured. There were hard days. Days when I doubted myself, when deadlines loomed, when whispers of unprofessional still stung even after all this time. But every time I faltered, Ryan was there with another note. "You've survived worse. You'll survive this too. I believe in you, even when you don't. Come home. I'll make dinner. And I'd write him back. The biggest letter I ever wrote him came on our 10th anniversary. I stayed up all night drafting it. My handwriting uneven, my fingers cramped, but my heart full. I wrote about the first note he'd ever left me, about the way it had cracked something open inside me I didn't even know was locked. I wrote about the kiss I'd run away from, the silence I'd buried us under, the fear I'd let control me. And then I wrote about the courage he'd given me, how his persistence, his patience, his love had built a home in me. You've always written to me like I mattered. This is me writing back. Forever. Thank you for never giving up when I did. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for teaching me that love isn't about being fearless, it's about being brave enough to stay. Even when fear tries to win. I love you. Always. I folded it, sealed it, and left it on his pillow. That night, when he found it, he cried. Not quiet tears, but the messy, unstoppable kind. And when I pulled him into my arms, he whispered, "This is the only letter I'll ever need." Sometimes, late at night, I think about the version of me who almost let him go. The version who thought fear was safer than love. The version who thought hiding would keep me from breaking. I want to reach back and tell him, "You're going to be okay." He's going to leave you notes. Hundreds of them. Thousands. And one day, you'll stop hiding yours. You'll write him back. You'll write the biggest letter of your life. Not with ink, but with the way you stay. The way you choose him every morning. And you'll be happy. Not perfect. Not without struggle. But happy. On our 12th anniversary, Ryan surprised me with a gift. A book. Hardbound. Thick. Heavy in my hands. On the cover, the letters. Inside, every note we'd ever written. From the first sticky note about lunch to the proposal letter to my anniversary letter. All of them, preserved. A history of us, bound together. When I looked up, Ryan was watching me, nervous. "Do you like it?" he asked. I couldn't answer. I just pulled him into my arms and held him like I'd never let go. Because in that moment, I realized something. We hadn't just written letters. We'd written a life. Now, years later, as I sit at our kitchen table, Ryan asleep in the other room, the book open in front of me, I find myself smiling. The world is quieter now. We're older, softer, maybe slower. But the notes still come. This morning, I found one taped to the coffee maker. "Coffee's on. Love you, old man." I laughed, shaking my head, but I kept it. Of course I kept it. Because some habits never die. I grab a pen and write one back, leaving it where I know he'll find it when he wakes. Still the best part of my day. Always. And just like that, the story continues. Because he always left sweet notes on my desk. And I'll spend the rest of my life writing him love letters. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.